that does lead me to Stephanie Ruhle, because she has a background in business news. So perhaps tonight will be the night she will get out there and ask those questions, like, who's doing that? Or perhaps not. This is how she interviewed Joe Biden not long ago when he was still the nominee.
You have a very strong economic recovery story to tell. As I said, you have a very strong economic recovery story. Have you given up on Congress doing anything? I know you believe in the American dream, and you talk about fighting for the soul of America.
Okay, I'm not feeling that good. Starting to reevaluate my suggestion that we might be surprised tonight. Here she was in the clip we mentioned in the intro on Bill Maher this past Friday, which has led many to ask whether this is how she got the Kamala sit down to begin with. Here it is.
My fear is that she doesn't really have a very good command of what she wants to do as president. It's not too much to ask Kamala, say, are you for a Palestinian state if Hamas is going to run that state? I'm not. I just said I'm not going to vote for her.
Kamala Harris is not running for perfect. She's running against Trump. We have two choices. And so there are some things you might not know her answer to. And in 2024, unlike 2016 for a lot of the American people, we know exactly what Trump will do, who he is, and the kind of threat he is to democracy.
The problem that a lot of people have with Kamala is we don't know her answer to anything, okay?
But you know his answer to everything.
And I don't think it's a lot to ask her to sit down for a real interview as opposed to a puff piece in which she describes, like, her feelings of growing up in Oakland with nice lawns.
Then I would just say to that, when you move to Nirvana, give me your real estate broker's number and I'll be your next door neighbor. We don't live there.
What a joke of a comment for an actual journalist, someone who purports to be an actual journalist, that we'd have to be living in Nirvana for her to give a real interview where we get to ask and receive answers on her policy positions. Charlie, that's 100% why she was chosen to sit down with her next. They said, we got a live one.
It's a false premise, and it's a premise I hear all the time. I'm sure you do, Megyn. I'm sure you do, Jim. That if you don't like Trump, or if you're not going to vote for Trump, or if you're a Democrat and you always vote for the Democrat, you should therefore not be interested at all in anything to do with the Democratic candidate because you think the other person is worse. That is a ridiculous premise for anyone to adopt. Were Stephanie Ruhle some random voter, I would think that that was a ridiculous premise for her to adopt. The idea that you cannot evaluate somebody who wishes to be president of the United States with all of the power, domestic and foreign, that entails is grotesque in a free republic. But for a journalist to say it blows my mind. Bret Stephens was not sitting there whitewashing or even praising Donald Trump in any sense. He wasn't arguing that Stephanie Ruhle or Bill Maher or the audience should vote for Donald Trump. He wasn't talking about Donald Trump. He was saying, independently of Donald Trump and his virtues or flaws, here are some problems with Harris as a candidate for president in a free country. Don't you think they're an issue? And she can't process it. She can't grasp it. Her position is, don't talk about that because that intrudes upon the anti-Trump message. Now, look, when you get into the voting booth, you do have to think like that in one sense because you're choosing one person and not the other. You can't say 70% for this person, 30% for the other. You can't shade the circle. But as a writer, as an interviewer, as a thinker, as a citizen, you should treat every candidate the same, whether you like them or not. You should ask, do they reach the threshold at which they have proven themselves adequate to be president of the United States? And I think the answer with Harris is no. And I think Bret Stephens is absolutely right. The reason for that is we don't know anything about her. We don't know what her answers will be. We don't know how she wants to use power. I cannot grasp how people got themselves into this position. The correct way of looking at this is to say, I have chosen to vote for or prefer candidate X over candidate Y, and now I'm going to give candidate X hell.
And just to follow up on that, I saw you tweeted on this earlier. You've got some reporters, even outside of the right-wing ecosphere, like this Alex Thompson at Axios, who, as near as I can tell, about once or twice a week, fires off questions to the Kamala Harris campaign saying, here is her old position, old as in like a couple of years ago. Does she still stand by it? Just the latest were she ran for DA in 2003. And since then, she's been an outspoken opponent of the death penalty. We asked if she's still opposed and would push for legislation or an executive order to ban it. The campaign didn't respond. Then it came to sex workers. Harris's campaign is declining to say whether she still supports decriminalizing sex work, a position she took in 2019. Asked if she was available for a brief interview on the topic, the campaign didn't respond. Then it was a question of amnesty to Dreamers. We asked if she still supported that, which she said she did in 2019. Her campaign declined to say. Here's another one. Axios asked Harris's campaign whether she was available for a 5 to 10 minute interview to discuss her position on immigration. A campaign spokesperson declined. Then it was last week where she was asked about, or 2 weeks ago, after the debate where Trump said she wants to use taxpayer money to pay for sex change operations for illegals and for prisoners. And the campaign would only say that's not a position she's espoused in this campaign, not disavowing the one in 2019. It's incredible. It's incredible. I'll actually bring this one to you, Jim, how she's getting away with that.
Well, actually, I mean, like, yeah, she's getting away with it from the media. I think the fact that she is still neck and neck is an indication that she's not getting away with it with the broader electorate. The Kamala Harris of 2019, and by the way, like, we refer to her 2020 campaign, but she never actually made it to the year 2020. So I guess technically it's her 2019 campaign. Those positions did not get her the nomination, did not even get her to the primary process, ran out of money. And so the question is, she wants to say, oh, I'm a totally different person from who I was back then. I have totally different positions from what I had back then. But I'm not going to say it on camera, and I'm not going to sit down and do a real interview. Like, there's nothing wrong with changing your mind on any of these issues. And she could go out and say, you know, I had that, and since then I've become vice president. I've got complete briefings on all of these issues, and I see the issue differently now because of X, Y, and Z. And if X, Y, and Z are persuasive
all 12 of them, it would be tough.
Yeah, it'd be a lot. You know, but and notice how many of these involve, you know, prosecution of criminals. You'd think that'd be a topic she'd be, you know, pretty familiar with. You think that would be her bread and butter. But if she says, you know what, before I wanted decriminalization of sex work, and now I've looked at evidence indicating that when you do decriminalize it, like they did over in Europe, it actually increases the amount of sex trafficking involved because you increase demand, the creepy mob sex traffickers move in, and they set up shop and they end up having more abuse of young women and things like that. If she said that, this is why I changed my mind, I think people would say, okay, all right, that makes sense. She's not doing any of this. And so I think what's holding her back is that people see this and they say, she's hiding something. She's probably a lot more progressive. She's probably a lot further to the left that she wants us to believe or to recognize. There's creating this sense that the public, or at least a decisive slice of it, particularly in these 7 swing states, just doesn't trust her because the question has come out. Apparently later this week she might go to the border. If she doesn't go to the border, it's like she's asking, hoping the public will just forget about the issue of illegal immigration and the insecure border between now and Election Day. Well, they're not going to forget. So you might as well talk about it. You might as well have something to say about it. And if you're going to do it, you should at least go to the border and pretend that you care and pretend that you look like you actually worried about this stuff instead of just kind of hiding and sticking it and giggling and wanting to talk about, coconut tree memes.
Charlie, she just did this again. First of all, I just want to point out, she was asked about her flip-flop on fracking by Dana Bash in that interview. She was allowed to lie and say she had made her position clear in 2020 versus the one in 2019, in which she said she wants to ban fracking. I made that clear on the vice presidential debate stage in 2020 that I'm not in favor. It was a lie. She said on the debate stage, you guys know at this point, that that was Joe Biden's position after Joe Biden had won the nomination. She has never spoken to hers. And then in an act of journalistic malpractice, when ABC got her for the debate, they failed to exploit that sleight of hand and let her get away with it again. That would have been an affirmative debate question I would have asked her. You said it's not true. What you said on the debate stage was about Joe Biden. I'm putting it to you right now. Did you switch your position? When and why? No. Once again, she told the same lie. She was allowed to get away with it. It's so incredibly frustrating. Imagine waking up one day to find out your home no longer belongs to you, that someone somewhere has stolen your property right out from under you. It sounds unthinkable, but it is a sad reality for some American homeowners and a risk for anyone that owns property. House stealing, that's what the FBI calls it. It's a form of real estate fraud where scammers leverage loopholes in the system to fraudulently transfer your home's title into their name. Then they take out loans against your property or even sell it behind your back. By the time you find out, the scammer's long gone, leaving you, the legitimate homeowner, to clean up the mess. But right now, triple lock protection is available through HomeTitleLock.com, offering 24/7 title monitoring, alerts, and restoration services. You can sign up today at HomeTitleLock.com and use promo code Megyn for 30 days of protection for free and a comprehensive title scan to make sure you are not already a victim. That's promo code Megyn and HomeTitleLock.com or by using the link below. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.